Welcome to the Transformations Podcast. Here, guests and I will share our transformative experiences and will explore how to find excellence in life. We're here today with Shanti. Kai, thank you so much for coming on the Transformations Podcast. It's great to see you.
It's wonderful to see you, Mark. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. You know, you have a very interesting life and background, and what I'm going to do for the listeners and for the viewers is in the show notes under we'll have your website and any other social media or links that you would like, so they can find out more about you, including your amazing YouTube channel, which is called Angel Light Meditation. And you have something about this on your website, and we think the planet is experiencing a shift in consciousness and energy right now. Quite a few traditions are pointing toward it, but we see so much chaos. But there's also so many more people being pulled into kind of meditative spiritual practices. Would you like to say something about that for us?
Yes. Well, it's interesting because when I started this spiritual practice, the Shaktipat Kundalini awakening practice that I am in, a version of that, I was 27. I'm 55 now. So do the math, however long ago that was. And there wasn't much happening. I mean, there wasn't internet then much. Right. So you couldn't really look it up. There was a little internet, but you couldn't really look it up. But there wasn't a lot about Kundalini or Shakti in the world. It was a very esoteric practice. So just going from then until now, whereas if you look up Kundalini on the internet, there's probably hundreds of thousands of people talking about it. So that alone it's just blown up. It's blown up, besides the fact that people are I wasn't really hearing that. It probably was existing and people didn't know what was going on, but of spontaneous Kundalini awakenings. And I don't know if your listeners know a lot about Kundalini, but maybe we'll get into that. But my Kundalini was awakened by a Shaktipat Guru. So it was a tradition and it came from India. But nowadays I get contacted or get comments from so many people that they're having spontaneous Kundalini awakenings, either from meditation or spiritual practices or plant medicines or just anything, accidents, childbirth, sometimes traumatic experiences can awaken the Kundalini. So yes, because I'm seeing so much of that happening, I'm having my own personal experience of people awakening. Just people are more conscious. I can talk to people much more about who I am and what I do than I used to be able to. And not always, but sometimes people kind of understand what I'm talking about. So.
Yeah, it can sound awkward to people or crazy if they don't know the terminology or understand the unfolding of the consciousness and the content and the practices. So
it can. And the way I see it lately is it's kind of like Neo in the Matrix and how he talks to everyone who's in the world. Be gentle and sweet. And I throw a few phrases out there and see how people respond. And either I go into it or I don't. Yeah. From the response.
Mm-hmm. Some of the Buddhist traditions, especially those in Thailand, believe that if only, and then there's been some academic studies about this, that if only 1% of the world meditated or elevated their consciousness, the entire planet consciousness could change. And I think we're starting to see something like that. Because
absolutely. Yeah. I've found that there are certain keywords if you use. Kundalini is one of them. Yeah. That if you put it in the title, yes, it will get a lot of views or a lot of hits just by using that word.
Yeah.
So people are interested. People are also afraid of it. sometimes because there's been some misinformation
Mm-hmm.
put out there. But either way, people are curious, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because, I'm a big vegan advocate as well. I'm an advocate for the animals. And I always see that when the other side starts fighting back, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So
You're
I feel
making
like that about the Kundalini and awakening too. If people are kind of pushing against it, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
And they're probably being affected in some way by the awakening. And, I see people just posting on Facebook about different things they're going into the hospital for, and the hospital can't find anything wrong with them, which are, and they're kind of typical Kundalini symptoms that
Yeah.
I'm seeing people, or awakening symptoms. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not full-blown Kundalini awakening, but some sort of awakening symptoms.
Yeah, and I've seen on some of your Facebook video, I keep saying Facebook, and I mean YouTube. On some of your YouTube videos where you're talking about Kundalini in some aspect, you have quite a few videos for people to go look at. But then you always kind of stop for a minute for a public service announcement, I'm going to call it, which is, look, if you're having trouble or difficulty, or you think that you're feeling a little insane or something is, please reach out to me because I can talk to you about these experiences. And I think that's really good because a lot of people don't. They're just telling what they want to say without stopping to consider people who are watching. And you take a moment to say, listen, you know, please reach
Yeah.
out if you're having some questions or symptoms that you might like some feedback on.
Yes. And unfortunately, I'm getting a little too busy to personally answer those
Yeah.
questions. But here's what an interesting thing I found just by doing this. So I used to just work with people personally
Mm-hmm.
in my meditation room, or I would go to people's houses and actually do programs, but small groups of people. So I could work with each person personally. They knew how to get a hold of me if they were experiencing any weird symptoms, but that's only happened like once or twice, really, where someone said, this feels like too much. And then I can work with them to balance the energy out. What I found with even getting response from people watching my videos, that the energy as it comes through me, and I think this is because I have such a solid traditions and gurus behind me, the way that my Kundalini was awakened, it was awakened very consciously. And I've always been really conscious about my practice, and I've always wanted it to be really pure. So that's always been my intention and my prayer, that people aren't having out of control, I have to say knock on wood, but as of now, people aren't having out of control experiences from the awakenings they're receiving, even online,
Mm-hmm.
which feels really good. Because I don't want it to get to that point where people are like, oh my God, I can't handle this. What's going on? Now, there are some people I'm working with personally right now who are going through some pretty intense experiences, but I'm in contact with them. They can call me, I can talk to them. So yes, I've been telling people lately, just come to one of my online programs. If you're, rather than because I can't personally respond to everyone's email or contact them personally, I'm saying come to one of my online programs because they're pretty small. My groups are very small and I can usually work with people individually. So, but yes, I am concerned with the energy that I put out there and the people that are receiving it, because even if they're receiving it on a video and I never personally meet them, it's still my energy connecting with their energy.
Yeah.
Video or whatever, I don't see that as any separation.
Yeah. You feel the responsibility also. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it can be a very big process, the Kundalini awakening. Some people go through it easy, um, just bliss and it's fun, but inevitably it's going to bring up some stuff because that's what it does. It clears out your entire system, and psychologically, emotionally, it can get really deep, and especially if people have trauma. And I don't know many people who don't have trauma. We all have some sort of trauma, and
Everybody.
yeah, it's going to clear it out. And a lot of people, because a lot of people that come to me have already been doing some sort of work for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, well, I've already done this. I've already looked at this, already cleared this. I'm like,
Right.
well, there's more.
There's
There's
more.
more. And so it can get pretty deep. And then you go into the re-experiencing of that trauma. So I like to be there for people. And my
So that's
videos are a good resource for people. And I've started writing a blog now that it's more, I feel like my blog is less, it's less about mental, it's more about, it's an actual transmission. So like the words don't always make sense in my blogs, but it's more of a reading it to get the energy from it.
right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
everything I do is hopefully put out there to
You
support
said
people.
that when they receive the energy, or the Shakti becomes, or the Kundalini rises, or the Shakti starts clearing their system, they're going to start kind of having to relive some experiences, work through some energy, burnout, dark matter. I don't know what to call it, but that, and I think most people, and I'm just assuming that most people think you would have some kind of a Kundalini experience, the top of your head opens and you're in bliss your whole life. But there's lots of things that don't happen that way. But I hear people talking about it that way. So I know when I hear that, often that the person giving the talk, or the, ooh, my Kundalini experience on YouTube, hasn't had it yet. They've had something different, you know?
Yeah, and it's usually hasn't had it yet because I've seen some of those videos
Yeah.
and then I'll follow up with that person a couple years later. And they're like, sorry, I haven't posted for a year. I went through this.
Yeah. Didn't have anything else to share. But
I knew
so,
that was coming.
yeah. So I want to go back in time to your 20s, and you were in between LA and San Francisco, somewhere about that time. And you were a hippie, deadhead, um, a dancer, model, married to a rock star. I'll let you tell as much of that as you'd like. But
Yeah.
you didn't come from a place of spirituality. It's like you moved toward it, like out of a scene, so to speak, in out of this
Hmm.
kind of raucous scene into like the stillness. Can
Hmm.
you share some of that with us?
Hmm. Yeah. So I reflected on this a lot. And the conclusion I've come to is that I've done a lot of spiritual work in past life or other dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came in to just either burn out a whole lot of stuff really fast, past life stuff, and I want to say, and one of my teachers says this too, you needed to experience all this. So when you work with people, you can say, oh, yes, I experienced that too, because so many things people
But
go through. I'm like, yep, I went through that. Yep, I
yeah,
went through that. So I can relate more to what they're actually feeling. And I can actually
yeah,
say, look, I went through that and I probably went through it worse and I got through it. You will get through it. Because sometimes when you're in the middle of it, it can feel really, when you're in the middle of clearing, it can feel so dark that you're like, I'm back to that. I've not progressed. Actually, I've gone backward. You can have all these scary feelings come up. So that's, yeah, that's some of the things I've thought about. But so let's see, where do I start? My childhood was intense. Mom was very out of balance. Um, yeah, not diagnosed, but probably, I don't know, something. I love her. I love her. She's great, but she's very imbalanced. And had some abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, lots of that crazy stuff. Teenage years were rough. I just slept around a lot. I did drugs, but I was also a straight A student. So I had this thing going where I had to be perfect. I had to look perfect in the eyes of authority, but I was crazy.
yeah.
Uh, so then I got kicked out of college. I went to college for, well, I was going to do something in the textile industry, design or something. I got kicked out for dealing cocaine my very first semester.
My mom would have loved to have met you.
But still, it's so weird. The parents still loved me. I
Right.
can't explain it. It is the strangest thing. Like, I was a bad kid, but yet I was a really good person. I
Yeah,
don't know.
something.
I don't know. Okay, so that happened. Then I was able to get into the college in my hometown because my mom knew the dean, and nobody else would take me, after that, even though my grades were good. But I
I
couldn't stay
shouldn't be
in
laughing.
college.
Hmm.
What?
I said I shouldn't be laughing, but it's just seeing
Laugh.
where
It's
you landed.
funny.
It's okay.
It's
It's like we
funny.
all kind of stumble our way to where we get, and this is a
No,
place to get.
it's a funny story. I don't care. I'm not attached to it. So, yes, what happened? So, I went to college in my hometown. I couldn't stay in school. It was like I was done with academics as much as I wanted to think that I was going to do that. And I was going to go into psychology at that point. Again, straight A's dean's list, but couldn't stay. And I was a deadhead. So, I got on an airplane with a backpack and headed out to San Francisco
Yeah.
and had nowhere to stay. I stayed at the Y down in like really bad area of San Francisco, and I met a bunch of hippies, and I lived on Haight Ashbury, and I did that scene. And of course, there were a lot of psychedelic drugs involved in that, but that was fun. I had a Volkswagen bus, and then I met a friend who was a stripper, and she was making a lot of money, like cash. She was coming home with wads of cash every night. I'm like, and I was actually working as a park ranger's aide.
Huh.
And I wasn't making very much money. As nice as it was to be in the woods and hike and all that, I wasn't making very much money. So I started stripping in San Francisco. But I was also a hippie. So then I got all my hippie friends into it because we would dance and make tons of money and go to dead shows and rainbow gatherings.
Wow.
And that was fun. And and we were naked all the time at the dead shows and the rainbow gatherings. So it all kind of flowed nicely together.
Flowed nicely. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So then what did I do? Oh, somebody asked me to do a calendar for like a car calendar, one of those bikini things. So I did that. And the makeup artist happened to be from LA. And she said, "What are you doing calendars? You should be doing real modeling." I was like, okay. So she introduced me to a photographer and did my makeup and got me an agent. And then I moved to LA. And that was the next step. So modeling in LA, I met, I don't know how many names I should mention here. I'll just mention it because it's a long time ago. I met Billy Idol,
Nice.
dated him for a minute. Through him or his bodyguard, I met my ex-husband, Matt Sorum from Guns N' Roses. This was all very quick when I got to LA, like immediately. Matt and I had crazy rock star tumultuous relationship, and I even took him to a couple dead shows because I was both at that point. I still
Mhm.
had hippie in me, but I
Right.
was doing the LA scene. But here's the thing. When I was a hippie, even though I did smoke pot and stuff, I gravitated towards the meditators. It was in me then. Like we would
Hmm.
go to a rainbow gathering and I'd find the meditators, or at the dead shows, I'd find the spinners. I don't know if you know about the spinners.
Hmm.
We would literally spin for the entire dead show.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was like a Sufi practice.
Yeah.
When I look back on it, I realized while we were doing the Sufi practice. So I always gravitated towards that. I
Okay.
wasn't,
So the spark was there. It
it
just
was
didn't have
there.
it just wasn't grown and nurtured yet.
It was
Mhm.
there. Yeah, I didn't do as many drugs as my other friends did. And
Yeah.
I was never actually, I never liked drugs, to be honest with you. I didn't like the psychedelic drugs. They took me too far. There was a lot of fear with that for me. So then let's see what happened. I don't know. So I was married to Matt. That was crazy. And like if I look at it, I was being led and I was always protected. I should have died probably 100 times in my life.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
so protected the whole time. And I think I was just being led through this journey. I was being led through the path. And throughout it all, even when I was with Matt, I was reading like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and you know, through all of
Yeah.
it, I kept something happening. He always said, "You're my angel. You're my angel." And I was vegetarian through all of it, so you know, there were aspects of my life that were always that. And
Is it at this time that you started seeing a therapist a couple days a week, and that
yeah,
therapist led you?
yeah, that's what happened. So I started seeing a
Yeah.
therapist when I was with Matt, and she said, "Why don't you try a yoga class?" So I did a Kundalini yoga class, which is the 3HO style of Kundalini. But I was wondering where that had originated, and was asking. Nobody could give me answers. So that question was in my heart. I was hiking up by the Hollywood sign one day, and I got a message very clearly, go to Nashville. So I went. I stayed with my sister. She lived there, and I met my Shaktipat Guru when I was 27. I
So
had my
you're
Kundalini awakened.
in Nashville. You have siblings who are musicians, correct?
Hmm.
Hmm. And I've seen you on video playing, which look like Indian instruments. So we can talk about. I don't know. Looks like a piano, like a little organ with a
Yeah,
sound
it's my
air thing.
harmonium. It's back
Harmonium.
there. It's back there. So you can't really.
Ah, there it is. Yeah,
There it is.
it's down in the back. Yeah,
Huh?
nice. Um, so did you always have music inside of you as well? That
Well, yeah, my mom was a music teacher,
mm,
and my dad played trombone, I think in the army band or something.
okay.
But yeah, yeah. So I played piano as a kid. I always sang in church choirs, school choirs, all of that. So yeah, I've always had the music thing in me. I've always been attracted to music.
Nice.
Yeah. So
So you went out to Nashville, and there you found another Kundalini school, but this was like the great Kundalini place for you.
this
It
is the
seems
real
like you
deal.
hit pay dirt.
The what?
You hit the big time, right? And you were
Yep.
very lucky in that time to be there.
Very lucky. Shaktipat Guru, very few followers, very few. I mean, when I was there, I was probably the only person with him during the day, because other people that
Um,
lived there, which were only a few, worked. Um, his partner had left. It was before he was with his new partner. So I was just with him 24/7, and he just pumped all of his Shakti into me. So for me, being probably a very unlikely case for having my Kundalini awakened with what I had come out of, just it just blew up. So I just know that it was aligned. It was all supposed to happen that way. And Kundalini started working in me very strongly. The Divine Mother. So that ashram was in the tradition of the Divine Mother. They worshipped Kali
okay.
and
Ali,
Durga.
Ali Ma. Hmm.
So she started coming through me very strongly, Kali, and it's interesting when that happens. You aren't doing it; you're just watching the prod. It's kind of like channeling, but the force of the divine just takes over. And so, yeah, it started a major process in my whole being. It changed my whole life, my whole world.
Yeah. Now, I had forgotten to ask, in LA at the Kundalini Yoga School, you had an out of body experience?
I did. I, after, well, that wasn't my first one. My first one was on mushrooms when I was in college.
Okay.
um,
Many paths to the same.
yeah, well, I'm not into plant medicines anymore, but
Yeah.
that's just me. When my Kundalini was awakened, my teacher said, you don't. Now, my teacher, mind you, used to make LSD. The
Okay.
one who awakened my Kundalini, he was one of the main providers of LSD for Woodstock.
Mm.
So he knew about that psychedelic stuff. Um, but when I met him, he said, you don't need that anymore. He said, this is all you need. And, you know, explained to me all the reasons why that drugs aren't the best way to the experience. And so I never took another drug since then, since my
Nice.
Kundalini was awakened. But my first experience out of body was on mushrooms. And then yes, I had a couple experiences in that Kundalini tradition. We were laying down after a yoga class. I think we were doing some breath work, and I I floated above my body. I was like on the ceiling looking at everyone and everything. And another experience I had, I was doing some chants from that practice one morning in my apartment, and it felt like a big vibrator just went right on my third eye, and I heard like 1,000 bees, and I was thrown onto my back. So those experiences, you know, became normal later, but those were my first big, like, whoa, what is that kind of experience?
And you had also mentioned in your biography video that it took several Shaktipat initiations or over period of time for you to start really feeling things were breaking loose and the energy was rising or emerging from within you. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's funny though, because I say that, but now I look at it and I go, it really didn't take that long.
Right.
But, so the first time I went to see him, I didn't really feel anything. I saw people around me getting kriyas, which is when the energy moves through you. The body moves, and you can go into, you know, your head might shake, you might do spontaneous breathing or speaking in other languages or going into yoga postures. But I saw other people having kriyas, but I didn't really feel much. And I left that night, and I think I went back maybe 2 months later, you know, 2 or 3 months later. And then I just stayed. Well, through different things that happened, and I moved in. So yeah, I say it was a long time, but I would say within 4 to 5 months, I was having pretty strong experiences. And when I look at it now with people I'm working with, I'm like, that's really not that long. It's really not very long.
Right.
Some people sit for years in the energy before they start having things happen.
Yeah. I think a lot of people assume that if you go through a Shaktipat initiation, or that it's going to just shoot up and be there and you're blissful and that's the end of it. But it actually takes a while. I know I struggle with it. You know, been doing different energy work for 40 years or so. And I don't get those blissful feelings with and things. So I'll be visiting. I need to open more energy centers or something. I have experiences, but not like I read about, you know, or I've heard other people talk about it. Like you, I'm familiar, you know, one of the great books that I've read that, and I have a friend who received Shaktipat from Dhyanyogi, Madhusudandas, and I know you have some connection to with Ananda, perhaps.
I have all of them up here.
You have them all up, yeah.
I have them all up here. Well,
there you go. That's a great book. I also have it, and his biography is just wonderful. That I saw on your bookshelf in one of your videos.
Oh yeah, this house is on fire.
Yeah, House on Fire. Oh, there's another one. Yeah. And Muktananda, of course, you know, was one of the early big ones, and I know you have them all.
Sorry, I got it.
No, it's great.
Promote all
there we
of
go.
them.
Play of Consciousness. Yeah, I have it.
It's very well read.
Yeah, it is. I see all this. I don't know. There was one video you were doing, and all the books were behind you, and all the spines were cracked. So I'm like, yeah, they're actually being read and studied, not just there for street cred, you know.
No, oh God, no.
Yeah.
No.
But you know, people think I see it, people having their kriyas all the time, you know, instantly, and I just feel like either it's psychosomatic, they're playing into it. That's been their 20th Shaktipat, you know, we don't know which number it is, or it's, you know, they're just trying to feel. I feel like some people are faking it, you know, Westerners, but they want to be part of the movement or the group or something, because I feel like it takes a long time for a lot of people, you know, many sessions, that it's not so instantaneous, although there are cases of that. Yeah.
There absolutely are. And there are people, like you said, that can take years, and some people don't ever go through the crazy kriyas. That's just, some people just don't. It doesn't mean your Kundalini's not awakened. It doesn't mean you're not having kriyas and cleansing on other levels. just not everybody has the crazy kriyas.
Yeah. The
You
crazy.
don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to. The Kundalini can still move through your system, and you can still be cleansed and purified. And I mean, I've had that with people where they're like, why aren't I getting kriyas? It's not about the kriyas.
Right.
Kriyas are just cleansing you so that you can get to the ultimate state. All we want to do is get to the ultimate state. If you don't need the kriyas,
Wow.
you're not going to get the kriyas, you know?
Right.
So yeah, it's not just, you're not just coming for the experience, then it's just like a drug, you know? That's not the goal.
Yeah. So is the ultimate state, um, or among the ultimate states, the feeling of bliss, or the feeling of God's love, or a feeling that you've burned off your negative karma? What would be, maybe if you could maybe talk about the level of states through, if there are different kind of things that happen to help cleanse, and things in any kind of order, from, not that everybody goes the same way, but from kind of a root to top.
So the thing is, nobody experiences it the same. We're all so different in where we're coming from and what our backgrounds are and what other lifetimes we've been through here or elsewhere. So, I mean, and what traditions we're coming from. Every tradition has Kundalini. Not every tradition experiences it the same way. If you're a human being, you have Kundalini, right? It's going to be awakened in order to reach your highest level of consciousness. It's not going to look the same in every tradition. So ultimately, these gurus say you have to have your Kundalini awakened in order to reach the highest state of consciousness. What that highest state of consciousness is, recognizing your godhood, recognizing your divinity. So is there an experience of bliss with that? Yeah, I would say yes. Deep love, absolutely. The thing is, it's like when you get accustomed to that feeling, you might not feel it as, oh, I'm so blissed out, because it becomes more of a natural state.
Right.
Or being in love, right?
Right. It only lasts for...
It's natural. No, but it is the state. It is the beingness of that. So you might be blissed out in comparison to some people that are walking around with veils on, but it wouldn't be the same as if someone suddenly woke up and felt bliss and went, oh my God, what is this?
Right.
When you become accustomed to being in bliss and you're just in bliss. So to me, it's just removing all these veils, just like every single lie, every single veil, removing them. So we're like, we are God consciousness. We are that state. We are that beingness. We are that oneness. We are that love. It's pure compassion, right? It's pure understanding of everything.
So Kundalini awakening is more about awakening and your consciousness to bring you toward God consciousness, or your awareness that you are God consciousness.
Yes.
The way
So
to that is love. Yeah.
it's pure love, but it's grace, and it's grace because grace is the action form of love, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Kundalini, or the Shakti, in the Hindu tradition is portrayed as the active state. She's the like Shiva is the stillness, the quiet. Kundalini is the active. So she comes into the body when the body is formed, but then she goes to sleep. And then when she's awakened, she's active. She's what creates everything. And then she ultimately brings us back to that state of union with It's the Shiva Shakti, the divine love, right? Union with the beloved, which is that state of God consciousness. And then it goes, according to that tradition, so they meet at the crown chakra. The Kundalini rises up the Sushumna, which is the central channel, eventually has union with Shiva, and then settles back into the heart. So then we're in that state of pure awareness in the heart, pure love in the heart. So that's, as far as I know, the ultimate goal, but I don't know everything. From my perspective.
Right.
I'm sure there's so much more and such a bigger understanding to achieve.
Yeah. Now, you offer different online with your group sessions. I wouldn't say classes, but sessions. And I wanted to know a little bit of definition for people who are looking on there, because you have one that says like a Shaktipat, and then you have ecstatic grace sessions, and then energetic awakening. And could you define maybe the differences or the different features of those three?
There's no difference.
There's no difference. Just ways to attract people. You know, I find that all the time.
I basically surrender to God whenever I write a description or anything, and I say, what should I call this? And I write down the words that I'm given. So they're exactly the same thing.
So, but I understand that messages come to people in different ways, you know, different languages, different words hit people a different way. So we have to find ways to communicate with different people, and you know, doing what you're doing there is a way of doing that, because you don't want to just have one video and they're like, I don't want Shaktipat, but ooh, an energetic awakening, that's interesting.
Exactly.
Right. You know,
and the name will change over time too. I evolve with how the divine tells me. Like, I used to call my work Angel of Light Meditation. Now it's called Lineage of Light.
Lineage of Light, yeah.
So it's evolving. And on Learn It Live, I did have it was energetic awakening sessions. And recently we turned it back to Shaktipat and Kundalini Awakening, because that seems to attract more people. For
now,
whatever.
I've attended some of your sessions, and I watched some of the ones on Learn It Live that are pre-recorded from a previous session that you can also watch. And you seem to go into kind of a trance, or you let yourself connect with the divine, and Hindu words. I heard Mayor Baba's name come out.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, that's funny. Was that in a recent one?
That was probably 4 or 5 months ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Not that recent, because I went to his place in Ojai for the first time.
Oh, you did?
When I went to LA a couple months ago, 1 or 2 months ago.
Yeah. I've read, I have many of his books and lectures and letters and things that he had written or signed and people had written, you know. Very, very profound person, all about love as well. But what is it that's either channeling through you or coming through you for you to decide how to explain? And the words that are coming in the sequence, is it relevant to a vision or to a download that you're seeing, or a message?
So I literally just surrender to God. Whenever I do my work, I always am just conscious of just completely surrendering to God. And for years, that's been my prayer before I start working. And whether God is the Kundalini or the Shakti or a saint, you know, sometimes saints will definitely come through with their personality, but no one's allowed to come through without going through God. Like, that's my rule. That's my energetic rule. I'm like, if you want to come through, you got to go through God first.
Gatekeeper. Yeah.
No personalities are allowed to come through unless they're of the highest light. So it's, you know, it's God. And oftentimes God comes through as Shiva a lot lately. Used to be more Kali, sometimes still Kali, more Shiva lately. Sometimes it will come through as a definite identity as a saint. Ananda, my mom, used to come. She hasn't come through lately. Jesus has come through. Baba Muktananda mostly.
Yeah.
That's most. Yeah, so it's God. I literally just say, and sometimes it's the the Kundalini as God, because I mean the Kundalini is the divine mother. It's the Shakti energy, but to me
Yeah.
it's all grace. It's all that. So that's what I surrender to. I just say, God, no, I'm going to move. I'm going to ask you to completely move my ego out of the way, because sometimes things are said through me that's very uncomfortable for me to say.
Mm.
So the more that I can move my ego out, the more that it can be said through me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, they're not going to like that. Oh, nobody's going to take that well. Or, oh, like, like
Yeah.
just make me pass out so you can just talk
Right.
through me. I don't want to filter it. So it used to be that it would come into my mind before it was said. I would have the thought, and I don't do that anymore. Don't let me think it first, because then I can edit it. I don't edit it. Just say it. Just say it. Just say it right through me, and I'll have to deal with the consequences. So yeah, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
It's the divine. That's been my only prayer for years and years and years, is that it's pure divine energy that comes through me. So I hope that is indeed what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's always my intention. So yeah, it's funny because people are, I can tell people get uncomfortable about their own insecurities sometimes for me. Like they'll
Right.
get embarrassed or something. And I'm like, dude, you got to deal with your own stuff, because for me, this is pure divine energy. I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm
Right.
more in being with the divine than personal ego sense of embarrassment.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, that's it. And
And I notice there's a definite point in the process with you where, as an observer, uh, I can see where you're clicking in. It's like there's a definite time where the divine energy comes in or comes forth. However, and
mhm,
look, there it is. Okay, now we're here. Now we're
you can
working.
feel it. Yeah.
You can feel it. You definitely feel it. I can, if my eyes end up opening to see what's going on, cheating or whatever, definitely there's a shift to be seen with you as well. Do you feel that it takes a minute for that to connect and then connect out with the people in your group? Or does it just like all at once, the light switches on a bright white light for the group, so to speak?
It's kind of always there, but then, because I'm going to do it right now. So it's always there, but then there's a point where I don't have to be responsible to my ego personality, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. Like as an ego, we feel like we have to be responsible to treat people a certain way or
Yeah.
respond when we're talked to or something like that. So then there's a point, yeah, where it can just become divine. And then I can see as the divine. So I can see what's happening with people. Like I'll just be, and I don't even know if I'll be shown. I'm just suddenly seeing as the divine. So I see in someone, oh, the heart chakra. That's where we're working.
Hmm.
And so my ego personality is watching, because I, as an ego, would have no idea how to open someone's heart or what they need or what happened to them. But the divine knows all of that, obviously.
Hmm.
So yeah, I've never really thought about the exact process of how that occurs, but yeah, it just opens up, I guess, connects.
I can see how, I know you do private sessions and where you're working with clients one-on-one and people. I can conceptually see how what you're explaining now can happen with an individual. And then I guess you would know where to place your hands or send energy because, say, their heart chakra needs to be opened or is imbalanced or something. But in a group setting, say there's 15 or 20 people or 6 people, does the attention split across them, or is it focus on one and then check out and check out, I don't know the words, to another person and move to another? Like, how does that experience feel or open up for you?
It's interesting because when you're saying that, I'm remembering my out-of-body mushroom experience. I'm gonna tell you why. Because I remember when I left my body, I was on the ceiling, and it was in like a fraternity house.
Wow.
And there were tons of people in this room. And I could hear everyone's conversation simultaneously and understand what everyone was saying, and all at the same time. So when I'm doing the work, I know that the energy knows exactly what's going on with every single person at the same time.
Mm.
And is working. And if I'm physically like working with one person, the energy is simultaneously working with everyone else at the same time. So it's not something our mind can comprehend, but interestingly, in that mushroom experience, I was able to comprehend that to a small degree because I saw that it was all, well, we're all one, right?
I'm going to say, right. They say when you die, that what you experience is everything all at once. Like there's just like 1 second, but every single thing of all time is just happening at one point. And you can just bounce to whatever point, or you can hear and see and feel all points at the same time. And that's kind of what you're experiencing, almost like this idea of this universal God energy is so big and profound and amazing that we can't even rationalize it,
Yeah, I've stopped trying. I mean, all you're gonna do is make your mind go crazy.
Right.
I did that as a kid. I can remember looking out at the stars and just like getting so upset that I couldn't comprehend the fact that it went on forever. Like it used to drive me crazy as a kid. Now I just go, I don't need to understand it. Right. My mind isn't capable of it, so it's
not anymore.
It's okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm just a servant of the divine. I know I'm in this small form with a mind, and I get glimpses of that divinity, in meditation or whatever, which is awesome. But in this body form, with a mind, I'm limited.
Right. So
I just want to be a servant to that energy and let that energy work through me, because I don't know what what the whole purpose of it is, but it's doing something, and I like it. It feels good.
Yeah.
And it's my purpose. There's no doubt about the fact that it's my purpose. It's what I'm
Well, it
supposed
seems
to
like
do.
you were definitely directed and pulled in that direction, in this direction.
Yeah, so I just make myself available as much as possible while still respecting my boundaries. I've learned a lot about that with charging, the right amount of money and all that. I'm learning how to respect my boundaries with it too.
It's hard to be a healer rather than a physician who gets a salary. It's hard to be a healer or a mind, body, spirit healer, and you feel like you just want to help everybody, and bring me a dozen tomatoes from your garden, will take an hour, and the next thing you know, you can't stay in your home. It's hard.
And energetically you get burnout because
right.
What I've found is that people don't appreciate it at the level they need to appreciate it in order to really get something from it.
That's correct.
It's just like you're draining your energy for what, like, oh, maybe I'll try this. Can I give you $20? Like, no, not it.
Yeah.
I used to say yes to everybody, but I've just found it's not helping them any more than it's helping me. It's not helping anybody.
Yeah. People who ask for free and get things gratis tend to want more and more, but do less and less for it. And people who pay for things see the value of it, and more times than not will engage in it and take it seriously. This person is charging. That's why you can have 4 hair salons on the same block or the same corner, and the one charging the cheapest isn't the busiest, or having the best clients. It's like you can pay $30 or $150, and you have all these people at the $150 with better hair. So
it's interesting, and I look at that now. I'm like, why are you only charging that much? And if I think somebody's really good and they're not charging a lot, I tell them, I think I will always pay them more, for one. And they say, I think you should reconsider what you're charging.
Yeah. But people are afraid, you know, they don't, their confidence level or their fear of losing clients, you know, because everybody has a sad story. I used to be in practice in Philadelphia for Chinese medicine, acupuncture, and herbal medicine, and qigong.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I had a client who was an attorney. She was probably in her 70s, and she only saw private clients and only clients who would pay $7.50 an hour. And I was like 45 a visit, you know. And she said to me, she said, "Raise your rates." And I said, "Yeah, okay." They're already like the chiropractor's 35, you know, like I'm already like 70, whatever. And she's like, "Doesn't matter, raise your rates, you're doing more, you're offering more, and you have a value." I was like, "Well, come on." And then a businessman called her, somebody's an entrepreneur from New York called, and she talked to him for 15 minutes. And at the end of the call, she said, "You know, you called me outside of an appointment, so I'm still charging you the hour." And he said, "Fine." And that was it. And I thought, wow, I can't wait to grow up and feel that good about my services. But it's just an energetic, my yoga teacher told me it's just an energetic exchange. Money means nothing. You know, your effort to do something for that money you're both applying energy. It's just an exchange. So don't value the money over the service or something like that. And
the fact of the matter is people have to value what, for that kind of work,
it's about the value.
Work, they have to value it in order to get something from it.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I've asked about it. I've asked the divine so many times, and I just keep getting, look, you're charging at my rate that I currently charge. You're charging way less. There's not even a price that can be put on what you do.
Right.
So stop.
Just stop. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
so
interesting. When you're working with clients one-on-one, but do you feel the energy within them, or do you feel like you're connecting in some way, you know, a hand on the thumb on the third eye, or a hand over the belly, or hands over the heart? You're connecting in some way and the energy just moves and speaks to you? Or do you feel like there's a deficiency or darkness over here and you're sending something in that direction? How does that process work for you?
Well, I never send anything.
Right.
It's always the divine that does it. But I do go through very often with the person what they're experiencing. So like I probably not as much as they are. Like for instance, someone has something in their throat or a blockage in their throat or heart. I suddenly feel the blockage in my throat and my heart.
Okay.
So it can get and then I'll just sit with them because I sit with that with them. And if somebody has to go into something pretty deep, pretty dark, and I know everything in them wants to get up and run away, and people have just said, no, I can't go there. Done. I can't do it. But I have some very courageous people I'm working with right now that I am shocked that they don't, you know. And so I'll say, I know this is really, really hard because I can feel it. So I feel it with them, but I'm here with you. I'm experiencing it too. I'm with you. I'm holding your hand. You're not alone. And so, yeah, I feel it. And like I said, I probably don't feel it to the degree that they're feeling it, but I do feel it. And it's very hard and it's very uncomfortable. And I'm not only feeling what they're feeling, but I'm also feeling their need to get away from it because it's so intense. So for me, it's just like, okay, let's just ride this out because I've been through it enough times that it almost always clears, you know, and then that's it's such a good feeling and I feel it. It just goes, and I'm like, oh, that
Right.
you know, no, like that feels better. I'm like, I know it feels better. And there have been a few times where it just won't clear in the moment. And it's like, sorry, we're going to have to, you know, you're going to have to sit with this for a few days and we'll work on it again or whatever.
Right. And you also do remote healing. So you can do this kind of work remotely, which I say remotely, and I've heard you say on the astral plane. I assume same thing, same idea, meaning not in person.
You mean if I'm not actually on a Zoom call with someone, I'm just
no, it could be a Zoom, but I mean, not physically in the same location, right?
I do almost all my work on Zoom right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Since COVID, that's been it's become the main way. Yeah.
It's really I don't think it's any different. I don't know. The people I work with might tell you it's different. But I've had people have really profound shifts over Zoom. So it's like, when we're in that God space, there's no
no space.
Separation, there's no space. So
Yeah.
and it's like I said, it's not me working. It's definitely not my physical body working.
Right.
It's God. So it's like God's everywhere, So it is nice to be in physical presence with someone, but I tend to get more tired working with people when I'm in their physical presence for whatever reason.
Interesting.
It's more draining, I found. Now that also might be because when I am in a physical space, I work with a lot of people because I'm there for only a little bit of time. It might be that too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, what was the name of that instrument again? The air blower?
The harmonium.
Oh, the air blower. Don't let me name instruments.
It's all right. It is an air blower.
Yeah, the harmonium.
That's
You play it very well, and you have a beautiful singing voice. I've seen a couple, one on stage with I guess a group, a band of 4 or 5 people with you, and also I think I saw a video alone in your meditation space or something, a room where you're playing. It's quite lovely.
Thank you. I love it quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I went to the ashram, because I did do music already. Obviously, I just picked that up right away and started leading the chants because it's what I love to do. And the cool thing about chanting is you just surrender and let the energy work through you. So it's not like, when you have songs that you play on stage and you play them over and over and over and over again. And I was always wanting to change up my songs and do something different. People don't want that. They want to hear the song that they know.
Right.
With chanting, even though you are singing the same thing over and over again, it's always different. And it always feels different and it always feels new. And you can, and then the Shakti starts coming through and doing her thing. And so I love it. I love chanting, and I love when other people come and chant with me or play their instruments with me, because everybody just gets to do their own thing and hopefully surrender to the divine, and then the divine can play through all the different aspects of everyone there.
Keep everyone in time and in tune.
Well, not always, but that's okay. The energy's there. No, it's funny because I used to do that with people. I'd be like, here's a drum, here's this. And I stopped doing that because a lot of people don't, even though they're really into it, they don't have timing. And then that does throw me off.
Yeah.
But my ex-husband played drums with me for years. We play at festivals and things. Because he's a drummer. So I've been trying to get my son to play.
He plays guitar, correct? He plays
does.
guitar? Yeah.
He'll play with me sometimes. But yeah, a little project I'm working on out in LA that might manifest into some professional recording with the chants. So that will be exciting if that happens.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Did you learn that music, the playing of the instrument and those chants at the ashram in Nashville or somewhere else?
Most of them, yes.
Wow.
Most of the chants I do came from my ashram time.
I see videos on YouTube of a Kundalini group in I'm going to say Colorado, and they're playing the same instruments, and they've got the same kind of pheasant or feathers, and there's.
I'm laughing because that's probably my guru.
Okay.
It's probably because he's in Colorado.
That could be it. And they have some videos and there's people flying into their kriyas.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
freaking out. And
I don't usually mention his name because he does not approve of what I do. So I don't want to kind of bring him into it because I don't think he'd want to be brought into my world in that way. Yeah. But he is in Colorado. So yeah.
So then
that's great.
That's why I didn't ask his name, because you didn't mention it on your video and you didn't mention it here. So, but I was just curious if it was a similar group, but okay. Yeah.
Very similar. Very
Yeah,
no.
very similar.
I love him, but he doesn't like what I do. He doesn't
Uh,
like the direction I've taken my work. So
well, can't argue with grace and divinity, so
yeah,
it's
it is what
uphill
it is.
battle lightly. But how now you've been to India to just for sightseeing or also to study with a guru there?
I went to see a guru there, yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Just a short time. I just I I went through this phase where I wanted to see if there was another Shaktipat guru out there for me.
Yeah.
I was really like, there's gotta be
Well, yeah,
one.
we seek that.
Somebody. What?
We seek that. You know, we don't like to be, I do it with martial
Yeah.
arts, traveled all over the world and
Mm.
healers to meet so I could apprentice, And then you get to a point, well, there's just really no one else at some point. But you
I
find it.
was shown that in a very dramatic way,
Mm.
finally. God was like, stop it.
He says, "Stop.
Stop it.
You're
And
grounded."
made me, forced me to go inward in such a painfully dramatic way that I got the message. Said, you are, I had this experience a few years ago when COVID started where I don't even like to talk about it because it was so
We
scary
must
and
process. Come talk.
but anyway, it was so intense. The Shakti came through, and don't get scared, people. This is like probably will never happen to anyone else. The Shakti came through me so strongly, and just I went through such like re-experiencing so many past lives of trauma, and just I've never felt anything this scary ever. And but anyway, Shiva came through, and it was the first night that it happened. My son and my ex-husband were in the living room. And Shiva came through so strongly and was just saying, there is no Kai. Kai's dead. Kai is dying. Kai's dead. This is Shiva. That's it. There's only Shiva. Kai's dead. Kai's dying.
Wow.
For hours.
It's intense.
And I went through this for 40 days, really strongly, off and on for a year or two. But like I'm still like, I have like, all my hairs are standing up right now. Thinking about it is anyway. So, and I wanted to call my ex-guru. I wanted to, and couldn't find his phone. I said to Rod, call him. Couldn't, the phone number had changed. Nothing. I couldn't get through to anybody.
Mm.
It just came down to no, there's only God. The only place I was allowed to turn was inward into God. And I was given that message so clearly. And that's the only place I had to go. I knew there was not one human on this earth that could help me. As much as I wanted somebody to take me out of that experience and help me, nobody could. So that I stopped looking after that. I'm like, okay, I get it. It's me and God, me and Shiva. We're good.
Yeah, that's a good sign. Good sign to stop.
I guess it's a good sign. It was scary as hell, but that's what happened.
Mm.
I love God. I love God like that. If nothing else came out of that experience, I love God so much. Like, it's all there is for me. Me and the divine, And that's what I want to teach. That's what I want to show people.
Mm.
Ultimately, that's all it is. It's you and God. Doesn't matter what anybody else says or does ultimately. It's you and God. It's your relationship with God. That's all that matters.
Yeah. How do you see yourself doing that in the future? I mean, if you keep moving the way you're moving, you'll probably influence the same number of people. So do you see a shift in how you're approaching things, or what is there other things that you'd like to do to kind of bring this teaching out? The new
Yeah,
website looks great, by the way.
that was part of the
Yeah.
goal with the new website.
Mhm.
One of my students he's been helping me. He's been with me for about 4 years.
Wow.
So he helped me put the website together because I don't like doing that stuff. Like I knew needed a new website for quite some time, but I just didn't want to do it. But I also know that I have to work with people who are in this work with me, or they're just not going to understand it.
Right.
So I can't just hire somebody to do my website, So there was that dilemma, like, you have to know you have to know this and this particular energy as it's coming through me in order to work. So I don't know. Like he's like, let's get more people on board. And I just don't know if that's the mission. I don't know if that's the goal. I don't know.
Right.
I'm doing what steps I think might need to be taken to open it up to people who might be interested. But I also know that my work is so esoteric, and the people that are with me love it so much, but there aren't a lot. There aren't a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. What about opening an ashram? Is that something that I'm just saying the funds were there or they appeared or building? Would you like to kind of build that kind of life?
Not
And have
yet.
that kind of thing? Yeah.
Not while I have children.
Yeah.
Because this isn't their thing.
Right.
I mean, it is on some level. They understand the energy, but they do it in their way. My daughter's an artist. He's a musician.
Yeah.
They're not out teaching spiritual stuff. That's
Right.
for sure. They do it in their own way. So not while I have kids. That might be something that I would do when they're off.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, I would love to live with spiritual family. But right now, my children are, I have to let them have a normal life. Normal. So not normal.
Yeah.
But
This podcast is for the abnormals only, please.
I try to give them as normal of a life as I can give them.
Well, you don't want them growing up resenting things and like, remember on Wednesday nights and we had to do this weird stuff, or whatever.
Yeah, no. I mean, they feel the Shakti. They know when they were kids, they would really feel it. They still feel it sometimes. But no, I want them to, my whole thing with my kids is letting them feel what's in their heart and going for it, whatever that is. I have to support it.
Nice.
So yeah, I would love to live with spiritual family at some point in my life. But I'm probably, when this phase is done, I don't know. So much as I don't know these days.
I know.
And I'd love to have a lot of people coming around doing this work with me. I would love that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a reality. I don't know if that's, the truth of what is happening or not.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to say.
That's God's call.
Yeah.
I love, obviously, I love the work that comes through me. And I love seeing the profound effects it has on people. So would I like more people to experience that? I would. But like I said, the people I'm working with right now are really strong. And I see how they have the courage to sit through what they sit through when we're working together. I don't know how many people have that courage. I just don't know. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I guess that's not a very good answer, but I
guess
know.
It'll come to you when you're sitting in meditation or just being silent, the answers will unfold just like anything else.
I've always been told that there will be a lot of people that come, but I've yet to experience that. So I don't know what that means. That might be an astral thing.
Maybe.
My guru used to say it back in the early days. He's like, you're going to have thousands of people coming. But that's yet to happen. So now I've just surrendered it. I'm like,
didn't he see you in his class and look back and say, what is this? When did this yogi come in? Like he saw that spark in you, right?
Oh, he came up to me the very first time I came. He said, you're a yogi or something like that. You're a yogi. Where did you come from? Or something like that. Oh, we definitely have a connection. I mean, we have lots of lives together, I'm sure. And like I said, I love him. I love him, but whatever. He doesn't like what I do, so I can't. Just had to let that one go for now.
Yeah. Well, that's why kids move out of the house. They need to blossom on their own, even though they love their parents and their gurus and their teachers, It's this part of the process.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's true.
You know, I have a lot of teachers in martial arts who many have passed away, also in Qigong. And when I'm with them, when they were alive and we were doing work together and writing books and making videos and promoting, I always felt constrained or restrained a little bit for my own personal growth.
Interesting.
And, you know, and then my one teacher who passed away at a young age, 63, after 2 years of grieving hard. I mean, he was like my best friend, my father, my brother, you know, my teacher. I just blossomed in that thing, and the whole direction I took the art was different and everything, and I didn't feel that same constraint. I have his pictures and paintings of him everywhere, and he's in all of my prayers and everything I do, but we've moved so far forward because we weren't stuck in his dream from a different generation, his technology from a different generation, you know.
Yeah.
And whenever I moved out of our house growing up, my mother was a psychologist, my father was a physician. Both have passed away, but it was very hard on me as a kid growing up. A lot of trauma for me, psychological, physical, and being away from the house, I always blossomed more, you know. So I trekked out through Asia and did all these things and came back a different person. And I could deal with them a little better, but still it's way too hard. So you have to kind of, you know, move away and do your thing and not you feel respectful and grateful and kind and loving toward the teacher, the parents, you know, the gurus, but not held back by them, by your remembered connection, I would like to say. Yeah. So I think you're doing a great thing.
Interesting. Yeah, that's yeah.
The birds fly from the nest. Yeah.
With relationships that confuse me on some level, I always just say, I know we're going to meet at death and it'll all just be clear.
Yeah.
The love obviously will be there and it'll be clear.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
That's my thought. You know what I like about the YouTube thing? Mooji had said this at one point.
Mooji, yeah.
Somebody said, well, why do you want to, or he's like, well, why are we putting videos up? And the person that was doing it was like, well, listen to this comment. And somebody said, I was sitting in a hospital bed. I'm so depressed. I'm like about to die. And I saw one of your videos and it changed my whole life. He's like, okay, keep putting the videos up. You know, like, you don't know.
Right.
You don't know.
Yeah. You don't know
who's seeing them and who's being affected. You just don't know.
Even if you have 20 views on a video, that could be 10 of those people could have really needed it. Like it found their way to them, you know. And there's videos with like 5.7 million views, but they're just meaningless videos that they just have a cool title. But they're not, they're informative or entertaining, but they're not really helping people or uplifting people, you know.
True. It's interesting. I will get messages from people or emails that's like, oh, I've been watching your videos for 2 years. I'm like, and they feel like they know me, but I've never even heard from this person before. And like all of a sudden it's like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, that's been happening. So no, I think it's a beautiful source.
Well, you're delightful and you've got full of energy and love and kindness and grace. So would you like to sing us out on a song? Dare I say, or perhaps do a little chant for us as we close out the podcast, either way.
How about if I just close my eyes and see what the divine wants to do?
Let's do.
That could be singing, but it could also be, I'm going to take my musician thing. I'm going to put that on because it cuts out my oming sometimes. I don't know if I'll sing. It might take a minute.
No problem.
Namasabriya Pakarma Sansariya Nate. Shiva 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 Kuruna Sansariya Pakru. Well, first of all, I'm just scanning your energy, and you have so much. You work with your chi, obviously, a lot, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, you have so much chi radiating from your body. Shiva 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 Shiva. So the divine just wants to say everybody's here, and welcome to the heart space. And I don't want to say my heart space, I say the heart space of God, the heart space of the divine, the heart space of divinity. Everyone is welcome to the heart space of God. That is divine love. That's purity, that's grace, that's truth. And as we feel that heart space just expanding and opening and being allowed to receive everything into it, we find that we are one. We're one with everything and everyone. And that's the grace. That's the grace of the Kundalini. That's the grace of God. That's the grace of divinity. That divine heart space, opening, receiving, being, becoming, allowing. Beautiful. And I am going to start, as the divine, we are saying, I'm going to start recording some chants and putting them on YouTube. So watch for that on my YouTube channel if you want to experience some of the chanting. Hoping to do all of my chants one at a time. All right. Thank you, everybody. I love you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.